Hi there, Mr. Hirschman. How are you doing?
Hello, good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. All right, I make it 6:32 Eastern Standard Time. So if it's all right with everyone, then we'll kick off. We'll get going with our update on the final draft of the facilities master plan. And we'll let any other folks in that come in through the waiting room. So good evening, everyone. Lovely to see you. And thanks very much for joining us for our fourth meeting of the Tacoma Park Silver Spring update for the facilities master plan. Please feel free to turn your cameras on. We would love to see you, but if you feel more comfortable to listen in, then whatever works for you. The chat will be open throughout the duration of our meeting, so feel free to put in there any thoughts, comments, or questions that you may have. Remember that this is your meeting, so we will answer anything that you would like to discuss as best that we can. And we'd really like to share with you all of the feedback that we've heard over the past 6 or so months on the facilities master plan process. And we've got some really, really great updates based on all of your feedback and all of the feedback that we've heard throughout the process. Today, as always, we're here to listen to you and to engage. So we've got 3 very specific questions towards the end of the presentation. But as before, anything that you would like to raise, then feel free to jump in, put up your virtual hand, or just put it in the chat. We do record these meetings as well, and they'll be updated on the Facilities Master Plan website. So if there's anything that you'd like to go back and remind yourselves of, or if any of your friends or neighbours would like to watch the recordings, they'll be uploaded in the next couple of days, along with the slide deck as well. So really great to have you here. You will note that I'm not Michael Aitken, who is the president of Link Strategic Partners. He's been called away this evening, but my name is Poppy Humphrey, and I'm the director of standards and accountability at Link, and I've had the pleasure of working alongside Montgomery College and Canon Designs for the past 6 months on this particular project. So we're really excited to give you some updates. So we have got a number of people that are here, and we'll introduce them in a minute. Hi, Dave. How are you doing? All right. So we're going to jump in by giving you an overview of some numbers associated with Montgomery College, and this really puts into context the facilities master plan. So some of you that have been on the meetings before may be familiar with these updates, but I think for me, they continue to just be really, really impressive. So Montgomery College currently has 3 campuses and several workforce development continuing education locations. And you can see that just in the map on the upper right there. And we're working hard on creating an East County Education Centre as well. Montgomery College is proud to have just under 40,000 students, 39,757. And the students are very diverse. There's a large Hispanic and Ethiopian cohort of students, and they're represented from across 155 different countries. 79% of students identify as persons of colour, and a large number of students studying at Montgomery College receive or are eligible for financial aid. And for those of you that joined the previous FMP Tacoma Park Silver Spring meeting, you would have heard Dr. Brad Stewart talk about students being supplied with free computers and discounted internet access for those students who qualify for grants as well. Montgomery County Public Schools is a huge feeder operation, and they're running an early college program where many students finish their associate's degree about a week or so before they finish their high school diploma. So in essence, they graduate from Montgomery College and the MCPD simultaneously as well. So there's just some high-level overviews. We've spoken about the high-quality faculty. We've had 9 professors named Maryland Professor of the Year as well, and so they're just some high-level statistics just to put the facilities master plan into context. The agenda that we're going to use this evening, we're going to stick with the same run of show that we've used in previous meetings. So we're going to introduce you to the other folks on the screen that are going to be giving you updates, talk about the planning process over the past 6 months and how it's led us to the final FMP, the current status, and then we're going to open it up for discussions. As I said before, we've got 3 specific questions that we'd like to hear your thoughts on. But if you have got any specific questions or you'd like clarity on any of the slides, as before, just put it in the chat or just pop up your virtual hand. I'd like to introduce Kerry Norberg, who is the Planning and Design Director with Montgomery College, and also Mike Glaros, who's with us from Canon Designs as well. So without further ado, Mike, I'll hand over to you, please.
All right, thank you, Poppy. And it's good to be here and to see some familiar faces. Just a reminder of who we are. We are Canon Design, and we are a 100-year-old architectural and engineering firm. We pride ourselves on innovation, and we love to work in the context of historic neighborhoods when we're doing our educational work. We've been doing educational work since we were founded 100 years ago. So it's a long tradition and something that we really pride ourselves in. So just a reminder for those of you who may be seeing this again, or for anybody who's new, what are we doing? We're doing a facilities master plan for Montgomery College and all of its campuses. This is required by the state every 10 years, and it's required of all institutions every 10 years within the state. And it's intended to create a framework for capital investments that extend the mission and vision of the institution, and address key needs of the institution, such as population growth, new programs that have new facilities requirements, or any kind of new space needs that might occur or be projected over the next decade. It's intended to address the relationship between the college and adjoining neighborhoods and businesses, so really integrating it within the county context. So the final document, when it's completed, will have an evaluation of the current facilities conditions, which was conducted by the college about a year ago, and we're kind of folding that information into our planning. It'll summarize those projected space needs and provide an overview of the college with a strategy for implementing the buildings over the course of a decade. So some of you may have been around for the previous master plan, which was established between 2013 and 2023. And you can see kind of the colored plans here that indicate what the status of that plan was as it was started. So essentially in blue, you see existing buildings. In yellow, you see new buildings. And in the orange tone, you see buildings that were planned for renovation. So this plan was a very aggressive plan. It looked forward past the 10-year time frame, and our plan will do the same. So the process that we've undertaken, we started back in the spring, basically when spring semester kicked off. That was when we really got going. Prior to that, we had done some analysis of existing documents, but once we had folks back on campus, we started to engage with campus constituent groups, students. We held a number of focus group sessions. We did intercepts with students at 6 locations across 3 campuses, and started holding community meetings to engage with you all and learn more about the institution and the context in which we were planning. From there, we moved into the develop stage kind of at the end of the spring. And I think a lot of you were there for those presentations where we started to talk about what we had heard, what we had seen, and what we were doing to synthesize that information into an overall strategy. So since that time, over the summer, we spent a lot of time working on details, checking out the coordination of various aspects of the plan, and ensuring that we were creating a cohesive document that could really support the needs of the college moving forward. And now we find ourselves in the fall here with the kind of final document. We presented the draft of it a couple of weeks ago. We're here giving you kind of like the final presentation. and then it will go to the board for approval. And from there, it will go to the state for their review and approval. And that will occur early in the winter. So I mentioned some of the public meetings that we had. This is a list of them. As I said, back in May, we kind of had our college-wide kickoff, and then we came back just after that and met with this group again to find out a little bit more about this specific community. We did a walking tour with this community and kind of learned a little bit and observed things with members of the community. And then, as I mentioned, we came back with those overall concepts, a little bit of synthesis about the information that we'd seen. We came back and did that same process with Rockville, Germantown, and also with the East County. And then, as I just mentioned, we came back this fall with a draft plan. Then we made a college-wide presentation, and we're here to give the kind of final presentation for Tacoma Park and Silver Spring. So, without further ado, the plan is based on some guiding principles, which we talked about back in May, really focusing on student success and expanding our definition of student success a little bit beyond academic success and kind of degree granting and so forth, to really focus on student wellness, to provide for informal learning and study, to think about intuitive wayfinding that makes it easier for students to navigate the campuses, to provide the kind of support and amenities that folks might need on campus, whether that's dining or other kinds of spaces. We know that the enrollment is a lot different. Projections for enrollment are a lot different today than they were 10 years ago. So we're really thinking about reinventing existing facilities as much as we are thinking about new facilities. We think that strategic renovations are key to kind of maintaining and enhancing the experience of the students by getting the right size of classrooms, by getting the right types of labs and the right kind of equipment into space, by creating hubs for activity for both faculty and students, and really repurposing square footage that is underutilized. Through all of these things, we're trying to expand access, kind of two-way access to the institution. We want to make sure that students have all the access they need to be successful on campus, but also we want to allow for nonprofits, county agencies, businesses to kind of engage with the campus and make sure that they're integrated and really helping support the mission of the institution and pushing the county forward. And through all of this, we want to plan prudently. We know that this institution is going to be around for decades to come, so we don't want to create just a plan for one decade. We want to think about what those evolutions might mean in the decades that come after our plan. So we are focusing a little bit on thinking about the near-term needs, but always keeping mindful of the potential for the next step in the plan after that. We also thought about each of the campuses individually and, came up with some plans, some specific items for each campus. Specific to Tacoma Park and Silver Spring was really thinking about that Tacoma Park campus core, making sure that that was enhanced through the process. And we were thinking about everything from the wayfinding that I mentioned earlier to the historic presence of the community around it to the environment, the natural environment that enhanced the campus. We do want to think about student amenities on this campus. Been without a rec center for quite a while. So thinking about everything from those recreational facilities to enhanced dining options, and also making sure that the learning environment was suitable to students' needs today. On the other side of the railroad tracks, we were really thinking about the connection to Silver Spring, the opportunity for the students to engage with businesses on the other side of Georgia Ave, and how we can make that a less of a divide, Georgia Ave. And of course, we want to think about our context. We know that we're adjacent to residential and historic neighborhoods, and we want to make sure that the campus is respectful of that. So, taking a look back at where the campus was in 2013, there was a pretty dense built-out campus at that time. There wasn't a lot of room for new development. You can see that there were a lot of small buildings here on the campus on the Tacoma Park side, and some open space, which included, I understand, a tennis court that was very popular. And then, of course, on the Silver Spring side, a very dense kind of urban, large footprint kind of campus, which is a little bit different, but very similar to what you see across the street. So since then, big activity has been the Leggett building. Obviously, this was a major endeavor. It took down Falcon Hall and replaced it with a state-of-the-art facility that's going to have classrooms and laboratories that are really going to help the students on the campus advance their STEM education. So looking forward to that being completed in the near future. There have been other projects, renovations and so forth on campus, but that's the major investment that's happened in the meantime. So looking forward, we're really thinking about what the next steps are going to be. And of course, the removal of Falcon Hall was made way for that STEM education facility. And really the master plan that preceded ours indicated a replacement then of the Science North complex with a new recreation center. And we're carrying that idea forward into this plan. So things have changed in the last decade, and this facility will really be about more than just recreation. It's intended to be a facility that is a blend of academic and really thinks about student wellness. So it is a more comprehensive, cohesive presentation of academic, wellness, athletic, and recreational facilities. Other major projects that are in the first sequence of events here include turning lot W1 into, again, sort of a mixed use building. The idea being that there would be parking underneath it, and the program above would likely be academic space, but it could also be residential should that be desirable. And we heard a lot from the community about enhancing this campus in terms of site amenities, wayfinding, public art, tree cover, any of the things that really make the campus feel cohesive and safe and lush and beautiful. And so we really want to think about how we can begin to invest in some projects that help tie the campus together, create those opportunities for wayfinding, demonstrate the history of the site, and include public art, all of which is intended to really give students a sense of well-being and belonging on campus. So those are kind of the critical aspects of implementing a landscape plan. And then we know that these projects are going to be a few years away. Any major capital investment takes a number of years of planning, programming, design, and then construction. So a couple of ideas to do something a little bit smaller and a little bit sooner in order to kind of begin to create space for the new students. So when the library is completed in the resource center, the existing space in Pavilion P1 that is part of the library is being thought to be transitioned to a student hub, study space, potentially the Shaw Center, a place where really students can go and engage with the college and also engage with each other, take courses, whatever that may be. Also thinking about some of the humanities students who are in the Commons building and providing an opportunity to make sure that there's a connection between that building and the new landscape being implemented with the Leggett building. So a modest renovation could be anything from furniture to paint to a new window or something, but just intended to kind of create an opportunity within the building to, again, for students to kind of connect, to unwind, to relax, and to engage in their studies. So I just want to take a closer look at the kind of planning parameters that we're thinking about for the academic and wellness building. It's a pretty tight site, so we want to make sure that we're providing good guidance for the designers of the future. And the first thing we're thinking about is that New York Ave kind of streetscape, and it's a really pleasant street to walk on, to bike on, or to drive on if that's what you do on streets. And the idea is to really set the building back in line with the student center as well as the resource center, so that landscape buffer between the street and the buildings can remain. On the other side of the site on Fenton Ave, we really think we can take advantage of that site a little bit, leaving enough room for trees, street trees, sidewalks, and those sort of amenities on that side of the street, but taking that real estate to kind of create the opportunity for some of the larger recreational spaces that might be needed in the building. We want to be mindful of those connections. We talked a little bit about creating that path that kind of goes through the campus and is cohesive through the landscape. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we're maintaining some of that outdoor space that the students have today, and then create an outdoor connection that goes through the building from the back door of the student center and into that outdoor space, so that there really is an opportunity for students to kind of walk through the core of campus and get to their destinations, even across the bridge on the other side of the campus. And then just thinking about the massing of the building, as I mentioned, trying to think about the larger, bulkier spaces kind of existing closer to Fenton Street, and some of the smaller, more intimate spaces existing more towards New York Ave. We have some more footprint on Fenton Street, so that seems like a logical move there. And then keeping the scale, comparable to the surrounding buildings is important, I think, on New York Ave, just as a design parameter. Then one last thing to think about is incorporating some parking underneath the building. I think the slope will work out for us such that you can really make the main level of the building concurrent with the courtyard level, and still tuck in a few parking spaces underneath, which is always advantageous. And so with that, we know that the original sequence of kind of getting buildings built on campus, it may take longer than 10 years, but that sequence, once it's completed, we're going to need to think about some of the things that are going to happen in the future. So the first thing is kind of thinking about systemic renovations of some of the pavilions. By the time some of these projects are completed, those buildings will need some attention, whether that's HVAC systems and other upkeep of the buildings, and perhaps new uses, but investment at that point. And then we do want to think about the potential for a fully built out campus and any potential expansion of the campus. The previous master plan contained the opportunity to think about acquisition of a couple of sites along Fenton Street that are not really conducive to the neighborhood, and nor are they conducive to the college's operations. And so they seem like logical places should the opportunity exist to acquire property and expand the campus. And so that is what our thinking is about the next 10 years and beyond in terms of the Tacoma Park and Silver Spring campus when it comes to new and enhanced facilities. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Poppy for questions.
Hey, Mike, thank you very much for giving us that overview and the summary of all of the work that's gone on over the past 6 or so months for the FMP process. So, as I said at the top of the meeting, this really is your meeting. We'd love to hear from you. So we have a number of questions, but the floor is open to get any thoughts and feedback on anything that you've heard tonight on the final facilities master plan. So our first question is, are there any specific elements or features within the final FMP that you feel particularly excited about, or that you would like to explore with us in more detail tonight? So the floor is open. Any comments, questions, thoughts in the chat, or feel free to raise your virtual hand or jump in. Yes, please, Mr. Hirschman.
Just curious, when you were talking about the possibility of parking underneath the, I guess it's where Science North now is.
Yep.
When you redo that building, is the parking garage that's on Fenton insufficient for the student body?
It is not. We actually did a parking count during the spring semester and determined that there is adequate capacity actually on all 3 campuses and in all the parking lots and garages on all 3 campuses. There is actually more capacity in the garage on Fenton Street than there is in the garage on King Street on the other side of the railroad track. So there is sufficient capacity in the garage, but convenience is convenience, and providing a few spaces, especially for accessibility needs and other special requirements, is always desirable if possible.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hirschman, does that answer your question? Have you got any thoughts or comments?
Not at the moment, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Paul, please.
Hi, yeah, I'll probably have more comments as we go along too, but the thing about this, probably the only thing that really excites me is this phase 3 purchase of those 2 big storage buildings on Fenton Street. My wife and I have been an advocate of this for longer than most of you have been in this process. So it's really good to see this is actually something that is being scheduled maybe for the future. And it's a great place for expansion.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's it was in the previous master plan, and we thought it made all the sense in the world. And you know, the college has been very supportive of that notion, you know, when the timing works out.
Thank you very much for that comment. We appreciate it, sir. Any other thoughts around specific elements that we're excited about or that we'd like to get a bit more information on? And also just a reminder, if there's anything that comes to you after the meeting, then on the website, Kennedy will put the link to the website on. There is an email that you can use to get in touch with us, and we'll respond back in quick time to that. So should we move on to the next question? And feel free to just continue popping your virtual hand up or putting any comments in the chat. So the second question is, how well does the facilities master plan incorporate input and feedback from the community throughout the planning process? We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Thanks for just popping the link in the chat there, Kennedy. And as we said, there's been a series of meetings. Mike showed the slide, and this is the 4th time that we've had the pleasure of meeting with you all to discuss the facilities master plan. Yes, please, Paul.
Okay, of course, I don't know what other members of the community have thought or contributed. And I haven't been able to make all the meetings. I've been to a couple of them, but haven't been able to make all of them. I can tell you from our standpoint, and we live adjacent to P3, for those of you who don't know it. P3 is in my backyard, for example. I can touch P3 standing on my fence. So we're pretty close to the college. We've been here about 31, 32 years. And I have to say, during most of that time, the college has been under construction. And of course, a lot of things have happened. The Commons renovation, the Student Center building, of course, the P3 renovation, renovations and smaller projects of P1, P2, P4, the Leggett building, it really kind of goes on and on. Now we're in the midst of this library renovation. And unfortunately, being in a constant state of construction is really not conducive to a good quality of life here. And I don't know if you received any of this kind of feedback during the process. I certainly have been mentioning this for well on 20 some years now, maybe 25, 30 years. Our property is not useful most of the day. Our property stops becoming useful about 7 o'clock in the morning and finishes about 5 o'clock in the evening. We can't open windows. We can't really sit in our backyard. There's a constant barrage of noise. This barrage has been going on through the P3 project, through the Leggett project, and now through the library renovation, which I believe has been the most severe of all that. I have measured noise levels inside my property well over 90 decibels from some of the work that's been going on over there, including a tremendous number of backup beepers simultaneously bleeding in the air. The other thing is we have been promised many times that there would be no construction traffic going on neighborhood streets, that everything would be accessed through Fenton Street. That promise has not been kept, unfortunately. Down my section of Tacoma Avenue and even continuing up into the next block, the 7600 block of Tacoma Avenue, we do have construction vehicles quite a bit. The other day, I tracked a cement mixer coming from Philadelphia Avenue down my street, Tacoma Avenue, making a right turn on New York and pulling up to the construction project right at the library renovation. There are many, many vehicles that are doing this. I certainly don't have the time or energy to follow it. But as far as your planning process, I really think you need somewhat of a good neighbor plan in addition to these construction plans, because things are not going well here with our quality of life in the North Tacoma area with all the work that's been going on college. I'm happy to see Mr. Mills here because I know he has a lot of power at the college. But one of the things that we really find to be very bothersome is when the college is doing landscaping work with very large gasoline-powered mowers and blowers. At the same time, construction work is going on at one of these sites. The racket from this is really tremendous. I don't know if it affects many of my other neighbors. Larry is the only one I recognize right on here. But there has been quite a bit of chatter on our listserv about the truck traffic. It is a problem here. I know from my near-in neighbors who I speak to almost daily that the noise is also a problem there. One neighbor, they have small kids who take naps during the day. Most of the people here at least part-time work home, if not full-time working home, and have since the start, in fact, even before the pandemic. So we really would like to have some consideration in this master planning for preserving the quality of life and indeed preserving our property values in this neighborhood as you go about all this major construction. I'm quite concerned about the additional work that's going to take place along New York Avenue. Since New York Avenue, of course, is right across the street from the neighborhood. And right now, as I mentioned, the renovation at the library has had a huge impact on us over here. So there is some additional feedback if my neighbors haven't already mentioned these things.
Thank you very much. Well, Larry, sorry, I'll bring you in, please.
If I could just add on to Paul's comments, I've noticed in the last couple of months that the heavy truck traffic really has increased quite a bit on Tacoma. And as Paul said, we had been assured absolutely that the heavy trucks would only be going on Fenton Street. And aside from the noise and the exhaust fumes, just the weight of the trucks. These are old houses. The foundations are not the strongest necessarily. I've noticed new cracking. So in addition to those other items that Paul mentioned, I'd also add just the vibrations from these trucks and cement mixers, dump trucks, trailer trucks for heavy equipment like bulldozers. And so that is something that displeases me quite a bit.
Thank you very much for your feedback and for your comments there. So just a reminder, Kennedy, and you'll be aware of this, but for anyone who's online or watching this afterwards that isn't, there is a project hotline. So we'll make sure that the numbers there, if there's any concerns, that you can report that into the college. And I'll bring Mike and Marv and Kerry in to talk about this as well. But as part of the projects, we developed construction directives and worked in collaboration with the community on those. So if the feedback, as I'm hearing and we're all hearing, is that actually there's a level of discomfort which is really causing you difficulty, then that's something that we'll go back and have a discussion with the college about. So we'll follow up with you afterwards about that. So Kennedy, if you could just pop the details of the hotline in the chat, that would be great. With regards to going future forward, Mike, Marv, Kerry, can I get your thoughts on this, please?
Well, I know that, as you stated before, construction directives are provided to the contractors in advance of any project. I feel as though the certainly the project that fronts Fenton Street has a great chance of following those same directives and guidelines that the college has provided before. So, and I know the college takes it very seriously because we've had a lot of discussions about how to make sure that the advancement of these facilities has the least impact on the community when it comes to noise, dust, debris, vibration, and other concerns.
Mike, thanks very much. Marv, if I could bring you in, please.
Sure, thank you. Paul and Larry, I want to apologize. We have very, very seriously articulated our expectations and our neighbors' expectations on how to control traffic. And I would encourage you to use the hotline and let us know immediately. And if you can get license plates or just a time of day, I promise that I will personally call those senior leaders from those construction companies and make sure they understand that they're not adhering to our agreed upon directives, which were actually articulated even in the contract. So if they're violating the contract, I do have some power over them, and I do what I can to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. I think there's a couple of the contractors that are actually on this particular meeting tonight, but I will actually make sure that we call some of them tomorrow and make sure that they understand that, you know, being on Tacoma Ave is totally unacceptable, except for a little piece that we have to do there toward the end of the construction for the Leggett building. I'm very, very, very sorry for that. You know, that's been articulated to our contractors over and over again that, you know, we don't go any further down on New York Avenue than the Academic Way, and there's no excuse to be on Tacoma Avenue except for when we're doing a little bit of work there that we have to do toward the end of the Leggett project. So I will. I promise that I will try to enforce that and make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. Once again, apologies.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, Marvin, and you know, I don't know what kind of enforcement you have over these construction directives. Presumably, I don't know if the college security people can get involved in this. Of course, a lot of these things happen very early in the morning. I doubt that there's too much going on at the college at that point. But I would certainly invite you all to be there sometime between 7 and 8 in the morning when they load and unload these roll-off containers. And that I don't need an alarm clock, I'll tell you that. I could just rely on these roll-offs. And that's in a house that's 3 properties away from New York Avenue, and with all my windows closed. You know, I am not an aggressive kind of man, and I don't really want to be calling the police department complaining about noise and stuff all the time. But it's quite clear to me, and of course, having training in industrial hygiene, I know these guys are violating the noise standards. And there was a time they violated dust standards, and we did report it to the hotline, and it doesn't seem like anything happened. That was with the Leggett building. Leggett was a demolition over there of Science South. So I really hope that you would step up enforcement and build in to these plans for the future some really serious and strict directives and enforcement of these directives with stated penalties for violation of these directives.
I do believe that our construction teams do penalize. I think that sometimes it happens perhaps without their knowledge. They're not out there watching every moment of the day. When they get a truck, and I was there for 4 hours today at the library, and you know, I saw Gilbane in action and making sure the trucks came only to that point, turned around and went back. We didn't observe any violations, but you know, I'm sure that there are probably violations that happen before they catch them. You know what I'm saying? If they see them, they do reprimand. And I think Bart Mello actually has fines for their subcontractors. So, we're only in somewhat ability to control these two sites. Whether there's other construction vehicles that go along Tacoma Park Avenue and go to other places, we have no control over those things either. So just want you to be aware that what we have control over, we are trying desperately to control and honor the directives. And our two construction firms do really take those seriously.
Okay, thank you, Curry. I don't doubt that there are vehicles just using Tacoma Avenue as a throughway. However, I do follow these vehicles, and they come down Tacoma Avenue, they turn right on New York Avenue, and they pause in front of that building. So I kind of doubt that they're going to some construction project in DC or Prince George's County down the road. I would also invite you and maybe some of Marvin's people, maybe college security people, to carry sound level meters. There's a great app available from NIOSH. It's available in the Google Play and in the App Store on Apple. You can put that app on. It's very accurate. I've calibrated it. And maybe when your security people are riding around, I know they do a good job of patrolling. They can run by the building and see what kind of noise is being generated there.
All right. Paul and Larry, thank you very much for bringing that into this space. I think it's important that that was heard. Sounds as though we've got a bit of an action plan there, Marv. You've got a commitment that you're going to follow up, and I'm sure that we could arrange for some colleagues from Montgomery College to come out at those particular times and see what's going on there as well. But it's important that you raise this, because I think that we'll continue to learn and build that into the directives and make sure that we're monitoring that going forward. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that, Poppy. There's a lot on the drawing board here, and hopefully we can get these things implemented before some of these additional projects are started.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'm going to move us on to the final. Oh, sorry, Mr. Hirschman, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just a quick question. What is your estimated time frame for the replacement building that would replace, I guess, Science North? Are we talking about 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Do you have any rough idea of when you anticipate that demolition and construction starting?
Well, I guess I would say rough idea, maybe. The process is there needs to be a project justification, a Part 1 program developed. And then once there's approval for the justification of the project, then there would be the development of a Part 2 program, which is the kind of directions and instructions to the architect, as well as the full project scope of work. And then from there, they would need to hire an architect and design the project before any construction would take place. So that whole process takes several years, probably at least 3. And that if funding were in place today. So it's definitely a little while before that would happen. If I had to guess, I would say 5 years before I would say 10 years. But it could easily be somewhere between those two.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Hirschman. Thank you, Mike, for the response there. I'll move us on to the final discussion point. But again, just a reminder, it is your meeting. So anything that you'd like to raise about the final draft of, the final facilities master plan, then please feel free to share. But overall, how satisfied are you with the final facilities master plan and everything that you've heard this evening? And are there any final comments that you would like to share or feedback with us? Yes, please, Paul.
Here I am. I'm fairly satisfied with this. You've heard my comments. They more are concerned with implementation rather than with a plan. I am a former academic myself, and I recognize that needs at the college level are changing constantly in response to changes in the world. Hopefully what you're building here are going to enable our students to be able to have good, solid, viable careers well into the middle of the 21st century and get the kind of education and training that they need to both transition into four-year colleges and to occupations where a four-year degree is not required, but a two-year degree is considered necessary for entry. So, the more the merrier as far as education is concerned. Just please be mindful of the neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's all wonderful, wonderful feedback. And as before, we're going to take away the points that you raised tonight. Any other final comments that people would like to share? Take it away, Mr. Hirschman.
Thank you, Poppy. Just a quick estimate. I think you said there's something like just shy of 50,000 students in Montgomery College through, I guess, through the three campuses. Your anticipation in 5 or 10 years, let's say, if we can just stick with, say, the Tacoma Park campus, how much of an increase in student population do you estimate coming down the road in the next 5 or 10 years? Thank you.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, if we look at the longer span of enrollment, peak enrollment was in 2012. And the enrollment of the college has declined from 2012 to 2021, 2022, and it started to come back up. The projections are for an increase through 2032 of somewhere in the mid 20%, which is less than the enrollment in 2012. So overall, it will go back up around in that kind of 20% range, but that will still be shy of the peak enrollment from 2012. And those are actually estimates that are available online through the Maryland Higher Education Commission.
Well, I hope that you and the college are cognizant of the fact that there is a minor master plan amendment that is being developed right now for a large portion of Tacoma Park, which could result in an increase in population of between 8,000 and 9,000 individuals. That's a pretty heavy people load to be placed fairly proximate to this campus. And I would imagine, I would be very surprised if people from that population didn't need to attend this college. But it's a big load to be considered for the future. We don't know when that's going to happen, but that would likely be within the 10-year time frame that this master plan represents.
Yeah, there will be a lot of dynamics that are going to impact enrollment on this campus as well as within the college as a whole, and obviously the opening of the East County Education Center will have an impact as well, because some students may choose to go there instead of here for some of their classes. It just gives people more option, more access. So it's something that I think needs to be analyzed and tracked as it goes forward. There's a lot of moving parts, like you said. The county has plans, but the city has plans, and those things need to be kind of synchronized, I guess.
We'll all pop the champagne cork when that happens, but I don't disagree with you about the concept.
All right. Thank you very much for the questions and for the thoughts there. And thank you, Mike, for the response. If there's any folks that haven't shared thoughts, feel free to jump in or use the chat. And this isn't your last chance. We do have the Facilities Master Plan website, so you can reach out to us, and the QR code is up there on the screen. So I'll open it up one last time for any more comments or thoughts. All right. Well, in that case, then, thank you very much for your time this evening, all of your comments, all of your questions. the college are taking them incredibly seriously. So we will follow up with you directly, and all of the slides and the recording will be uploaded by our fabulous colleague Neil overnight. So they'll be there for you to watch, and anyone else that would like to follow up. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your evening, everyone.
Thanks to all of you for putting this thing on. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
participating.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye, sir.